get the privilege and honor to introduce my husband, Stephen, my better half, who will be sharing part of his lived experience with von Willebrand's disease. Stephen was diagnosed with type 1 VWD at the age of 43, so he was diagnosed later in life after our daughter was diagnosed. Looking back, many symptoms from earlier in his life began to make more sense after that diagnosis. His story is an important part of this conversation because it shows what can happen when bleeding symptoms are not recognized early, when joint issues are not always connected back to the bleeding disorder, and how delayed awareness can impact long-term joint health and quality of life. Stephen's experience is his own and may not represent every person with VWD, but it highlights why patient voices matter, and sometimes lived experience helps us see what labs and imaging and what textbooks alone cannot fully explain. Stephen will share what living with VWD has looked like for him and how joint complications have affected his life, and why awareness and early recognition and coordinated care are so important. So please, I'm going to switch my seat over to him. So Stephen, come on over.
How was that for a transition? I know, sloppy. Yeah. How's everybody doing? Good? So yeah, my name is Stephen. I don't know about her better half. She definitely is my better half. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So yeah, growing up my entire life, not knowing, because I didn't get diagnosed until a couple of years ago. But growing up, I always had pain, always had stiffness, and just pain that just seemed to last longer. Not to mention the nosebleeds that would last for 30 minutes to an hour or more, all the way up until my early 20s. But just being constantly told, oh, you're too young to be hurting like that. Don't worry, you'll grow out of it. They're just growing pains. And just constantly being told that nothing was wrong, all the while behind the scenes, something was absolutely wrong. But just growing up that way, I always remember just feeling like, I guess something's wrong with me, or I'm just a hypochondriac, because I was always told that by multiple people, or that I was weak. So it really messed with my confidence. It messed with just certain things just growing up. It didn't really take hold until I got diagnosed. I say we because my wife, Amy, she has been through this step by step, every step of the way with me, and has lived it with me. So it's hard for me to say me, because it might be my body, but it's definitely not me. But our daughter got diagnosed, and because she was dealing with the signs of extreme anemia, and all I can say is I'm thankful that she got diagnosed, because then that led to me getting diagnosed, which put all the puzzle pieces into place that made sense, because I'm 45 now, and at the time when I got diagnosed, I think I was 40, living my whole life having to deal with all that, along with multiple surgeries. I think at that point I had 6 surgeries on my right knee, 1 or 2 on my left knee, spinal cervical surgery, even drilled into my hip to get some bone marrow transplant, to get some stuff from my hip to be put into my knee. And none of the things went the way that they should have. The healing never went well. It seemed to take forever, and like I said, just never seemed to heal properly. Anyway, so fast forward back to my diagnosis. I get diagnosed, get my knee replaced. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. I had an excessive bleed issue. Even though I was diagnosed with a bleeding disorder, it just didn't go the way as planned. And I ended up having to have 2 more surgeries throughout that year. By the grace of God, and Amy just doing all the research that she did, she was able to get me to the place where I had the proper people caring for me, and to get the prophy, get the treatment while doing all the rehab and doing all the PT and everything. And it just showed me what a true recovery was supposed to be able to be like post being diagnosed with a bleeding disorder. But since then, it's been interesting, because I always hear, oh, you definitely know what a bleed is. Oh, you can't mistake a bleed. When you've lived your entire life pushing through pain, all kinds of pain, whether it be growing pains, or whether it be bleeding, whether it be injury, or now older age, arthritic pain, it all blends together, because pain is pain to me. That's what it's been, at least. But the last 2 years, I've had to learn, stop and slow down to figure out what certain pains could be. Is this an injury pain? Is this bleeding? Is this old age? Is this whatever? Because again, when you've been told that it'll be fine, nothing's wrong with you, or you'll grow out of it, whatever, your brain just tends to overcompensate and just overwrite whatever you're supposed to be paying attention to. But I will say that I'm getting better, not perfect yet, but getting better at determining bleeds, especially now that I have prophy on hand, So I'll get prophy twice a week, but when I believe that I have a bleed, I'll take what we call like a little bump, like an on-demand dose. Thank you. And within a short amount of time, the pain subsides from a 9 down to my normal 6, 7 range. I know, sorry. So that tells me that it was a bleed, and I've yet to take the on-demand and not get some relief within a short amount of time afterwards. So that tells me that I'm on the right track with determining what a bleed is and what isn't. But it's also directed my life to have to pay more attention to how I live my life, not to watch out what I do and not do certain things, but to be more aware. And if I know I'm going to be extra active and it's off of a prophy day, say it's like a day and a half past my prophy or 2 days, and I've got another day or two before I'm about to get my next dose, I might go ahead and do an on-demand dose because I don't want to bleed. So I'm going to do it from a prophylactic standpoint. And so I'm learning to do that. I don't know. It's been complicated because, again, learning this late in the stage of life, it's a learning curve. But I spend a lot more of my time trying to help my daughter because she's younger and I don't want her to deal with the same stuff that I'm dealing with. But she's also 17, almost 18 years old and very determined. Forget it. She's stubborn, thick-headed, but also in her own way, tired of dealing with the problems that she's been dealing with. But now she knows what the diagnosis is. So I'm hoping that she can move into that next stage of living life under proper care and paying attention to things. Yeah. Amy just reminded me that not just about our family in this house, but I've got multiple brothers. I have 6 other brothers, and 4 of them are genetically linked to my mom, which is where it came from for me. And at least one of them has paid attention to what we're saying, or the mom has, and my sister-in-law, and they were able to get the kids tested for von Willebrand's, and they were young. One's now, I think, 2, and the other is 5, maybe something like that, 3 or 5. And now they're diagnosed with von Willebrand's at a very early age. So they can definitely get to understand how to treat it better, especially with Amy on their side, right? To kind of help them through it. But just to be diagnosed, just to have that understanding, that's the first step. You can't take action until you get diagnosed. And once you get diagnosed, you learn that's not the end of it. You've got to learn how to fight for yourself and advocate for yourself and have a voice, right? Because I definitely did not have a voice because I didn't know what I was dealing with. And even once we started learning what we were dealing with, we were being told something else. Finding the right care team is so important. And I definitely am blessed and thankful that I have found the right care team for me